Welcome everyone, I am Daniel of Earth, and this is the first part of my Stone Arch Bridge painting. For this first portion, I will be using titanium white, Mars black, and primary blue. As per usual, the first portion of my first video is just going to be working on the background. This painting is based off of a picture that I took while in Minneapolis, Minnesota, of the famous Stone Arch Bridge. And when I took the picture, it was a bit of a overcast day, so this painting is going to be a little bit darker than some of my previous paintings, but I think it's good practice. So I'm going to start off with a bit of a darker background. And you might wonder, why are you using primary blue? I don't see any primary blue in that painting. Well, when we use straight black and white to make gray, which would be fine for the background of a painting, but I want some of this to show through. When we use straight black and white, it can seem a little bit flat on our canvas. And we want our sky, even though it is just the sky, it's just the background, we still want it to look dynamic and like it is part of the rest of the painting. We don't want it to be too flat, but we also don't want it to be too blue because we do have that kind of overcast sky. Now I'm going to add in a bit of that darker gray that I made to start adding in the base coat for my clouds. This gives me a general idea of what I want them to be, and then I can start adding in shadows and highlights for the bottoms and the tops of the clouds respectively. You might also notice that my canvas is slipping around a bit more in this first painting. That's because the canvas was a little bit folded over on the back of the wood frame, and it was causing some issues on this table specifically. I'm in a little bit of a different area. I'm at my sister's house for this first portion of the painting, so you will see her cat, Osito, poke his head in every once in a while. For this first portion, I am just using that 1-inch flat head brush that I like to use for getting painting coverage. There's Josito. He is very curious about what I'm doing. If any of you out there remember some of your basic Spanish, you will know that Osito's name has two parts, oso, which means bear, and ito, which means little. So his name is Little Bear, and he lives up to that name pretty well. He's kind of round, stocky, and he has a very round, bearish face. Just making sure to fill in all that white canvas poking through, a little bit more gray, but I'm not too particular about the color because it's just going to get covered up by my water later in the painting. For this next portion, I will just be using titanium white to make some outlines and some line art for my bridge and my shore. I will be doing some basic measuring, just measuring with my fingers along the canvas to get a basic idea of where certain parts of the bridge should be, and I'll also be doing a little bit of flipping of the canvas every once in a while so I can get correct angles on those lines. From this painting, you can get kind of a good example of one of the basic practice, kind of working up to understanding art better methods, and that is perspective drawings. You'll notice that all of my lines that are meant to be on the tops of objects, for example, my shoreline, starting down in the bottom third of the painting, and the top of my bridge, which is up on the top line of my painting, they all seem to go towards a single point. Now that point isn't necessarily on the canvas. They're all eventually going to converge at a single point. That sort of drawing is something that people do a lot of when they're first starting to learn how to draw and learn how to paint, and it's very good practice because it teaches you perspective. It teaches you that objects are meant to be smaller when they're farther away. It teaches you that shapes do not necessarily have to be perfectly straight lines, and it teaches you how those shapes can kind of warp as they get farther away and as they go towards a certain point in the distance. I do a lot of editing of that top line for that bridge because I want the angle to be correct, and I just was not getting it. I'm very happy with how it turned out in the end, but there is a lot of changing of that top line. For this next portion, I will be using titanium white, Mars black, yellow oxide, burnt sienna, and burnt umber. I'm just going to be doing the basic base coats for my bridge so that I can start putting my bricks on there and my mortar. And then I will go back in with different colors and make the bricks a little bit more defined and different in color. You will notice I'm using a bit more black and white with the underside of the bridge. That's because I want those tones to be a bit more muted than the ones that are in the sunlight, not just darker, because of the way the human eye works. The human eye has rod cells and cone cells. The cone cells are what see color. They're what help us perceive all of the different colors that we can perceive, and our rods are what help us see in the dark. So if we have darker, more shadowed areas, we're actually going to see less color. That's why if you're in a dark room and you have a red pillow sitting next to you and a blue pillow sitting next to you, your eyes might not really be able to tell the difference. Both colors are going to look maybe about the same until you turn up the light a little bit more, and then they'll start to differentiate from each other. But the tones will still look a bit muted, and that's why we want our muted tones in those shadows, because like the human eye, we want to replicate that and mute those tones a little bit, because our cone cells are not working as efficiently, and we're not seeing as bright of colors in that darker area. And I'm just getting the basic base coats down for these colors. I'm not being too careful with the lines, because I'll be going back through that area. That's about all the time I have in this video. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, please like the video, and if you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing to my channel and ringing the bell. It will notify you whenever the new videos come out. I have a playlist of all these painting videos over on my channel. Again, thank you for watching. Bye bye.